Stop everything, because the moment you're about to relive wasn't just a social media glitch, a late-night cryptic post, or some harmless off-season drama. No, this was the spark that nearly detonated the most electric backcourt in the WNBA, and it all began with 4 words, but not the 4 you think. Before the basketball world went into meltdown, before analysts sprinted out of bed to record emergency segments, before fans started panicking about the Indiana Fever falling apart, something far more shocking happened behind the scenes, something that set up Caitlin Clark's response in a way nobody could have predicted. But let's start with the moment the internet broke. It was past midnight, a dead zone in the WNBA offseason, everything quiet, until suddenly, it wasn't. One Instagram post, no caption, no explanation. Just Kelsey Mitchell, the Indiana Fever's undisputed scoring engine, staring into the camera like she knew something the rest of the world didn't. And underneath, 4 chilling words, eyes open, mouth closed. Instant chaos. Phones buzzed nonstop. Group chats blew up. WNBA Twitter spiraled so hard you could practically hear the sirens. Fans demanded answers. Haters celebrated. Commentators speculated. And within minutes, the entire women's basketball universe jumped to one terrifying conclusion. Something was breaking, because here's what casual fans don't understand. Kelsey Mitchell isn't optional. She isn't replaceable. She is not a sidekick to Caitlin Clark's stardom. She is the backbone of Indiana's offense. 20 points per game, 45% shooting, a scoring presence defenses fear before she even touches the ball. And that's exactly why her message felt like a warning, like she knew something seismic was coming. The panic only got worse when you remember one thing. Fever fans didn't even get the full Caitlin Clark experience last season. They waited months for highlight reels, logo threes, and sold-out arenas, only to watch injuries limit the season to a heartbreaking 13 games. 13, so losing Mitchell on top of that. Unthinkable. But here's the part nobody saw coming. While fans, analysts, and rival fan bases all lost their minds, one person didn't. Caitlin Clark. She watched, she studied, she stayed silent. Not out of fear, but because she was preparing something. A response so calculated, so unexpected, that it didn't just address the rumors, it erased them, and it changed everything. Here's where everything flips. Because while the rest of the world was spiraling over Kelsey Mitchell's message, Caitlin Clark wasn't confused. She wasn't nervous. She wasn't panicking like everyone else. She was reading between the lines. See, 2 outsiders, eyes open, mouth closed. Sounded like frustration, maybe even betrayal. But to someone who shares a locker room with Kelsey Mitchell, someone who's watched her lead, grind, and carry the Fever through chaos, Caitlin recognized something different. This wasn't a breakup message. This was a warning shot. And once you understand why Mitchell fired it, the entire WNBA engaging story hits a different level. Here's the truth people forget. Kelsey Mitchell has been the cornerstone of the Fever long before Caitlin Clark arrived. She survived losing seasons. She survived roster shakeups. She survived being overlooked nationally while quietly becoming one of the league's most lethal scorers. And when Caitlin Clark's fame exploded overnight, Kelsey didn't fade. She elevated. That's why the two work. 2 stars, 0 ego. But behind the scenes, not everyone felt the same. As free agency approached, whispers grew louder. Other teams saw an opening. Veteran guards wanted bigger roles. Agents circled. The Fever front office hesitated on long-term commitments. And suddenly the question wasn't, is Indiana building around Clark and Mitchell? It became, which one does the franchise value more? That's when Kelsey posted it. Eyes open, mouth closed. A message to the organization. Maybe a message to the fans. Possibly a message to anyone doubting her future. Absolutely. Because those 4 words said more than any press conference. But the story doesn't peak there. Because while speculation exploded, Caitlin Clark stayed quiet. Too quiet. No tweets, no interviews, nothing. And that silence. It terrified people. Some thought she was distancing herself. Others thought she was waiting for Mitchell to leave so she could comment. But nobody anticipated the truth. Caitlin wasn't avoiding the moment. She was planning her counter. A response that wouldn't just calm the fan base, but would lock arms with Kelsey in a way that would define the Fever's future. Because if Kelsey fired the warning shot, Caitlin was about to fire the answer. And when it dropped, the entire league froze. And then it happened. Just when the WNBA world thought Caitlin Clark had gone silent for good. She flipped the entire narrative with one move. Not a tweet, not a press conference, not a cryptic post of her own. Something far more calculated. Something only a franchise-changing star would dare to do. But before we get to her response, you need to understand just how volatile things became in those 24 hours after Kelsey Mitchell's message. The energy around Indiana felt like a pressure cooker. Fever fans were bargaining with the universe. Rival teams were circling like sharks. Analysts on TV were practically writing breakup eulogies for the best offensive duo in the league. Then came the leaks. A reporter hinted that a major guard shakeup was possible. Another suggested Kelsey was evaluating her future, and a third claimed certain players were unhappy with team direction, a phrase that could mean everything, or absolutely nothing. But online, it meant chaos. And the whole time, Caitlin Clark watched the storm build around her teammate. Now here's the part nobody expected. Insiders say Caitlin wasn't worried about the rumors. She was worried about something bigger, perception. The idea that the Fever's rising star and its scoring veteran weren't aligned. The idea that she, unintentionally, was becoming the center of tension. And Caitlin Clark refuses to let narratives define her team. So the rookie-turned-superstar did something bold. She walked into the Fever practice facility early the next morning, hours before anyone else, and reached out directly, not through press, not through agents, not through social media, to Kelsey Mitchell. Not to ask what was going on, but to stand with her, and that's when the real story begins. Because sources say Kelsey opened up about everything: her frustrations, the pressure, the expectations, the uncertainty of the offseason. Not drama, not anger, just truth. The kind of raw honesty that leaders share only with people they trust. And Caitlin listened. Then she did something even more unexpected. She told Kelsey she wasn't going anywhere, that the Fever needed both of them, that Indiana's future wasn't built on one superstar or one scorer, but on the partnership they were building together. Teammate to teammate, no cameras, no crowd. And then Caitlin made her move, the move that froze the WNBA. A public response so clear, so powerful, and so pointed, that all the rumors stopped instantly. This is the moment the entire WNBA had been waiting for. Not the rumors, not the cryptic posts, not the panic, the response. Because when Caitlin Clark finally broke her silence, she didn't just clarify the situation, she rewrote it, and she did it with one perfectly timed, perfectly crafted message that hit the internet like a meteor. But before we reveal that message, you need to understand why it mattered so much. The WNBA operates on momentum, narratives, chemistry, identity. And when a young superstar like Caitlin becomes the face of a franchise overnight, every word she says or doesn't ripples across the league. So when she stayed quiet for an entire day after Kelsey Mitchell's eyes open, mouth closed, post, people assumed the worst. They assumed Caitlin was distancing herself. They assumed the duo was splitting. They assumed Kelsey wanted out. And that's exactly why Caitlin Clark chose her next move with surgical precision. Because her response wasn't just about clearing up rumors. It was about sending a message deeper than any headline. Here's what she did. At 7:02 p.m. prime engagement hour, Caitlin posted a photo. Not a selfie. Not a motivational quote. Not a highlight reel. A picture of her and Kelsey Mitchell in practice, laughing, arms locked, side by side, and the caption, "Just for words, we're not going anywhere, for words." Mirroring Kelsey's original post, but flipping the meaning entirely. Instant explosion. Fans went ballistic. Analysts started deleting their Fever falling apart drafts. WNBA Twitter turned into a celebration zone. And every rival fan base stopped smiling. Because that moment those 4 words did more than end the rumors. It re-established the truth. Caitlin Clark wasn't threatened by Kelsey Mitchell. Kelsey Mitchell wasn't leaving Caitlin Clark behind, and the Indiana Fever weren't fractured. They were united. And dangerous. And here's the twist that sealed everything. Within hours, insiders reported that the Fever front office had accelerated contract talks, working to secure the duo long-term. Caitlin didn't just respond to drama, she reshaped the organization's priorities. That's leadership. That's star power. That's why this story matters in the world of WNBA engaging stories. A cryptic forward post shook the league. But Caitlin Clark's forward answer, it rebuilt it. And every team in the WNBA felt the shift. Because Indiana wasn't just intact.